What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Locked On Clemson podcast. We've got a special guest for you today as we dive into all things Clemson sports.
You are Locked On Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everyone? This is Locked On Clemson podcast. My name is John Bivens. I'm your host. You can follow us over on X right below us. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. And we are joined with a special guest, Aaron. Appreciate you joining us, man. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. It's an absolute pleasure to be on today. For those of you guys who don't know me, my name is Aaron. I run the Twitter/X account called Fifth Quarter Clemson, where I mostly talk about all things Clemson sports, Clemson athletics, Clemson University. I had a really loud postseason for baseball this year, but now baseball is going away and it's entering football season. So I'm excited to be here. John, I'm ready when you are.
Yeah, man. So I'll be honest. I followed Fifth Quarter for a while, but the time that I really was like, man, this guy gets Clemson, is you posted, I think you went live on Twitter after the crazy regional matchup, the last game of the season, with the ejections and the crazy calls. And I think you were driving down the road just talking about your opinions of the game. I was watching that and I was like, this is the spirit of Clemson. This is what we need right now. So you got some great stuff over there. If anybody's listening, make sure you follow him over on Twitter. They got some great stuff over there. Great following, great culture. So yeah, you're doing great stuff, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, that was absolutely wild weekend. I remember my voice was hurting already. I was tired. I was sweaty. I was very disappointed. But I was like, I have to get my words out now while all these emotions are raw. So I'm glad that you're able to see that. And right, that's kind of like the goal, right? I hop on a live, I do a post, and people see it and go, well, this guy's not a complete moron, so maybe I'll give him a chance.
No, yeah, you got some great stuff. We really appreciate you joining. So let's just dive in. Obviously, a big part of Clemson recently, going around Clemson, ACC, pretty much college football as a whole, a huge part of it is the conference realignment. What's going to happen? What's going on? So what's your thoughts? So let's first think about what's your thoughts on the whole situation.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion's pretty public in terms of what the Twitter account says. Pretty much, I personally want Clemson out of the ACC, kind of like as quickly as possible. I kind of started to feel this way back in 2020 when we pretty much had the opportunity to bring Notre Dame into the fold full time, and then at the time, Commissioner Swofford, in my opinion, just fumbled the bag. And that was kind of the beginning of the end in terms of Clemson and the relationship with the ACC. And I say that because that's how a lot of people at Clemson felt. This was a chance to bring Notre Dame into the fold, to bring real money, significant money into the ACC, and it just didn't happen. And that's when they started the process of really looking into some things to try to get out of the ACC.
Sweet. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think I remember going on and the whole campus, the whole environment was just like, really, did we really just miss out on that chance? Because Notre Dame, obviously, national level program at football. They've had years where they're successful in other sports, but mainly football. But yeah, that was crazy. Recently, I know another big thing that happened was when they voted to add the additional schools. Clemson was one of the few that voted against that. Do you agree with Clemson, or how do you feel about the addition of SMU, Stanford, California, all those?
So when it first opened up that it was Cal and Stanford, I know it was Clemson, Florida State, UNC, and NC State. As a whole, needed at least 4 votes on no to not bring them in. Those 4 schools voted no. I think Louisville also voted no as well to be like a 5th school. But then they added SMU, and that flipped NC State, and that flipped Louisville. Personally, I like the addition of SMU. It makes a lot more sense. I mean, Texas isn't Atlantic coast at all. It's right. Gulf of Mexico coast, but it is still closer than California, right? Not just California, but Northern California, right? It was one of those things. The ACC, for some odd reason, felt that was a home run decision. They felt, okay, like we're bringing powerhouses, Cal and Stanford in. Stanford hasn't been anything close to what it used to be ever since Coach Shaw kind of started to flutter out and then left. Cal hasn't been anything since Aaron Rodgers and Marshawn Lynch. Even then, they weren't really like a whole lot. It never made sense at the beginning. It still doesn't make any sense. I don't think it will ever make sense. And like, along with not bringing in Notre Dame into the fold when this happened, I know a lot of people around Clemson felt it was a slap in the face, because in reality, whatever money you're making from bringing Cal and Stanford into the fold, that money is just going out the door because of travel costs. It doesn't bring you anything. And the idea that bringing Stanford in because of other sports like the Olympic sports, rowing, swimming, like stuff like that. I don't want to sound like a bigot. I don't want to sound like someone who doesn't care about those sports, because all sports are important. All sports matter. But the fact is, they don't bring any money. They lose money. They lose a significant amount of money. And at the end of the day, everyone wants college sports to be more like a business, right? They want it to better the athletes in terms of making it a business. You can't make it a business and then bring in two schools who's going to end up losing you millions of dollars.
Yeah, totally agree. I was looking at the miles that being able to have traveled, and just if you travel, I think there was, I believe, I want to say it was Louisville, but it was one ACC school that the distance they had to travel to go play one of the California teams, and then the distance back added up to the complete distance they were playing for the rest of their schedule. So I think it was Louisville, but it's like you're literally doubling your travel miles with one game, which is like, is that even a high market game? So yeah, it's crazy. I think it adds a new energy level for sure. SMU for sure. I think they're building something special down there. They've had some success over the past couple of years. So I think I'm with you there, but I agree. I think Cal, Stanford, if they were this side of the country, even middle of the country, I could see it. But yeah, the fact that it's opposite side, completely agree. Let me ask you this question too. So with the conference realignment, ACC, I agree with you. Part of me deep down is like, I want us to stay because, the home sweet ACC basketball, ACC football, that's just the conference. I've grew up being a fan of it. But realistically, I think it is time for to leave. Where's your landing spot? Where do you want them to land, and where do you think they'll land?
No, so, right, like, first off, like, I absolutely, like, agree with you. It hurts to have to say that, I'm wanting Clemson out of the ACC. Right. The fact of the matter is, ACC stands for one thing. It's not Atlantic Coastal Conference. It is another Clemson championship. Right. Clemson's a founding member. It stinks, but, like I said earlier, college sports is becoming a business. And the fact of the matter is, there's no reason schools like Northwestern, Vanderbilt, right, these lackluster schools in most, if not all, sports are making twice as much as Clemson. Right. But I would like Clemson to join the SEC, kind of get that monkey off of the back. But in like all reality, everything points Big Ten, right? Clemson's board of trustees have for back-to-back years now have set a internal timetable, along with pretty much like a cost analysis background on what it would cost to and how long it would take to bring up in the school's analytics and statistics to make it a more appetizing school to join the AAU, which outside of just Nebraska, every school in the Big Ten has to be an active AAU member. So the board of trustees are trying to do that. They'll say that, this is to keep every conference, every opportunity open. I know there was something being flown around about the Big 12. That's a non-factor. Everyone that I have spoken to, the Big 12, it just doesn't make any sense, because the Big 12 financially, Clemson might get $5 or $6 million. That's pennies for what Clemson can get out of the Big Ten and the SEC. But the big part about the Big Ten is just Fox Sports. Fox has quickly taken over college football. They have surpassed ESPN and Disney in their quarterly and annual numbers. Fact of the matter is, Fox is becoming the new face of college football, and that's kind of why you're seeing a lot of small layoffs at ESPN, while they're also paying out absolutely ridiculous amounts of money to keep certain people in the fold, and others putting the same faces in shows nonstop, to try to bring viewers back in. But just like the way it looks, it is the Big Ten, not just because of football, but look at all the other sports. Basketball, Clemson's a top 3 basketball team in the Big Ten day one. Baseball, Clemson's the premier baseball team in the Big Ten day one. Softball, premier, top. Soccer is the only sport where I could see Clemson taking a little bit of a lateral move, if not a slight step back, in terms of where they can be in conference rankings. But again, Clemson's won two of the last 3 national championships in soccer. So it's not as much as running away from competition, but you're going to make more money in the Big Ten. You're going to win more championships in the Big Ten. Your school is going to have a better pedigree in the Big Ten. That hits all 3 facets, all 3 points of the trident. I think the only way Clemson would go to the SEC is for just a lot of money.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Big Ten would definitely be goal one. Let's land there. I know a lot of people are being like, oh, Big Ten's been silent. Nobody said anything about joining. Let's be real. Big Ten is, like you've talked about, a high-profile market. They make a lot of money. They're present in almost everywhere. There's no way they're going to actively come out and be like, hey, we want Clemson in the middle of this court case when who knows how everything's going to land financially, right, the grant of rights, all of that. I think they're waiting out. I think they're trying to be patient, see what the results are going to be, see the timeline of when Clemson can leave, and I think that's when they'll swoop in and be like, hey, are you interested in this? So, yeah, I think good stuff. It's interesting. It's interesting to see what's going to happen. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, let's dive to football, see what's happening on the football field. So we'll be back in just a second. It's summertime, and I don't know about y'all, but what that means for me is it is barbecue season. My grill has been going. My smoker has been flaming. The meats have been flying off the grill, and so it's time for you to stock up on all of your grilling favorites and earn cash back on every purchase when you use Ibotta. That way you don't have to choose between burgers or hot dogs. You can get both. Fire up that grill. Get those meats going. Ibotta is a free app that lets you get cash back every time you shop. Earn on the hundreds of items from groceries to beauty supplies to toys. So you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibotta earns $256 per year. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip or that flight that you've been eyeing or even that fancy dinner you've been craving. Other apps give you points that don't amount to much. With Ibotta, you earn cash back that you can withdraw to your bank account, PayPal, or even gift cards. Simply add offers in the app, upload your receipt, and voila! The money is all yours. You can save on over 2,400 brands and shop at over 1,000 retailers, including your favorite grocery stores, Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and so much more. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 for just trying Ibotta by using the code LOCKEDONCollege when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store, download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store. Use code LOCKEDONCollege. Warmer, sunnier days are calling, so fuel up with them with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals in time for summer thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and even Keto. Factor's fresh, Nova frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. Make today the day you kickstart a new healthy routine. What are you waiting for? With 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, you always have a new flavor to explore. Crush your wellness goals this July with dietitian-approved meals and ingredients that you can trust. Make your day delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay fueled with easy, nutritious options. And you can treat yourself to restaurant-quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, blackened salmon. Head to factormeals.com/lockedoncollege50 and use code lockedoncollege50 to get 50% off your first box. Plus, you get 20% off your next month. That code is lockedoncollege50 at factormeals.com. Welcome back to the Locked On Clemson podcast. We are here joined with our special guest, Aaron, over from Fifth Quarter Clemson. Aaron, let's move to the football field. So the past 3 years, people tend to say that this has been the ugliest years of Clemson football. That's not the truth. I mean, flat out, that is nowhere near the truth. Has it been our primetime years? No, but there's a little bit of a decrease. 2024, everybody's expecting better. What are your expectations? What do you see happening on the field?
Yeah, so I'm going to give a football player, a football coach answer here. My expectations in reality have always been the same ever since I actually became a Clemson fan back in 2007. Right, I'm a 3-generation possible legacy. I did not go to Clemson. I am the family disappointment there. But my expectations are to play sound and sustainable football. Right, I remember back in 2009, Dabo's first full year at Clemson. Clemson went 9-5. They won the Music City Bowl. They lost the ACC championship. But by all accounts, they played sound and sustainable football, right? They won the games they were supposed to win. They lost a few games really close and tight. So that's what I expect. I don't expect going 12-0, 11-1. I just expect the team to do what it's supposed to do. Now, with that being said, the talent on this roster is national championship quality. So if you play sound and sustainable football, you should be at that level. Right. Last year, Clemson lost 4 games. You don't fumble on the 1-yard line and you make your field goals. Clemson's 11-1. Clemson's in the ACC championship game. They're probably winning that game. They're in the playoffs. It's a completely different year. So you just have to play sound and sustainable football. You have to complement what you have on roster. You can't go into the red zone, within the 5-yard line and not get a single point across the goal line or even a field goal. That's not sustainable. And frankly, that's not acceptable.
Absolutely. So with that, where do you see is their ceiling? Like, what do you see the highest level of Clemson this year? I
mean, ceiling, you want my honest opinion, possibly 16-0.
Okay.
Now that is absolute ceiling. That is the rooftop tiles, right? That is the top of the chimney.
And it's breaking
right. It especially looking at week 1 with a team that I felt could have and maybe should have won 3 straight national championships. But I mean, the team has the talent, not only on defense, but on offense too, where if they play sound and sustainable football, can beat just about everyone on their schedule. I see no team on Clemson's schedule outside of week 1 where if Clemson plays their brand of football, what they're expected to do, what they have to do, they don't win all of them.
I'm with you, man. I think when I look at that Georgia game specifically, you look back at the last time we played, obviously it was a 3-3 tie except for a pick 6, right? I mean, our defense was electric. Our offense was struggling. I think if you look at Georgia's offense, that game compared to where Georgia's offense will be this year, I would say that offense was better quarterback, better weapons, in my opinion. I think you look at the defensive levels, I would say our defense, there's argument that our defense has increased. There's argument that it's the same. There's an argument that it's decreased just a little bit. Even if you say it decreased since then, I think the drop-off from Clemson defense to where it is now is much smaller than Georgia's offense. And so there's no reason that if they're playing their football, I don't see us – there's no reason that game isn't at least close. We could definitely win that. I agree with you. What about the floor? What's the opposite side?
We saw the floor last year at 4-4, losing games to teams you shouldn't lose to. Like I said, you're You're fumbles on the 1 yard line away from beating Duke. You're a fumble on the 1 yard line from beating Miami. You're a field goal in the last minute away from beating Florida State. That's the floor, right? The floor is just, what commentators say, grasping defeat out of the jaws of victory, right? And it's crazy to say the gap in between the floor and the ceiling is not that big, right? Right. Like if you're laying on the floor looking up, it starts to run away from you, but in reality, it is nowhere close to as far, right? Dabo was saying it right before Tyler from Spartanburg hopped on, right? This team's a few plays away. This team is 3, 4, maybe 5 plays away from being undefeated, from being, the number 1, number 2 team in the entire country, right? So as crazy as it is, 4-4 and 11-1, right? That's a lot of games in between, but the floor isn't that far. So like I would say the floor record wise, prior to postseason play, 7-5, 8-4. I think the floor was pretty much there in terms of the team last year. I would even say at that 4-4 mark, they were below the floor. They were in the basement, but they were able to claw themselves back up. They're able to win 5 straight. And that's pretty much it. You just have to play sound and sustainable football.
I agree. And I think you made a great point. In reality, if you go back and change 7 specific plays of last year, and I'm just throwing out a number there, but I think if you throw out 7 plays that you change the outcome of, that team is easily 1 loss, right? I mean, 7 plays,
Absolutely.
That's all it takes. That's wild.
I can name those 7 plays, right? It is night and day. It's right there slapping you in the face. And that's what Dabo was saying. Everyone was yelling at him. Everyone wasn't happy. I get it. Tensions are high. The team is 500. And like, I understand why fans were upset. I understand why fans are upset this year. But fact of the matter is the team could have been a hell of a lot worse. Team should have been a hell of a lot better, but it really could have been a lot worse. And when you lose close games, those games end up turning into wins, right? You look at the baseball program, not this previous season, but the year before. They were losing close games, and then they went on to win 17 straight. You just have to get over that hump, and then the games will fall in line. The win column will start to add up.
That's a great point. Real quickly, what are some 2 or 3 players you think are the keys? Who are the key players to make sure that success happens?
Offensively speaking, it has to be Cade Klubnik. I mean, he is quarterback 1, right? He was a first-year starter last year. He had a lot of shaky moments, but ending the season, especially ending it the way on that last drive versus Kentucky, was absolutely massive. And then also I would say one of the wide receivers. I'm not going to name a wide receiver. I just need one of them to play at the level that we expect them to, right? Antonio Williams, everyone thought he was going to be the hot hand. Adam Randall last year, Williams got hurt. Randall never really caught form. Tyler Brown took off, right? Now we're hearing Tyler Brown, the usual suspects plus TJ Moore and Bryant Wesco. Just need one of those guys to absolutely pop off. Defensively, right? It has to be Peter Woods. It has to be pretty much like that guy who could play anywhere on the defensive line from nose guard all the way out to 5 technique. And then also, as much as I love Barrett Carter, it has to be RJ Mickens. He is the senior. He is the leader of that young DB room, right? Clemson lost 2 starters in Jones and Wiggins last year, right? Terrell played amazing at the end of last year. Lewis had a shaky Gator Bowl, but he finished it strong, right? Kylon Griffin played great in his limited reps, but it has to be RJ Mickens. We need that leader at that safety. We need that guy who can come in the box and absolutely stuff a linebacker, but also drop back and play some of the best coverage you have ever seen.
I'd agree with you. I think as amazing as Barrett Carter is, our linebacker room's pretty solid, right? I mean, Wade Woodaz, great ball player, filling in for Jeremiah Trotter this year. Sammy Brown, supposed to be an excellent linebacker. All the coaches are raving over him as freshman. So I agree. I think that defensive back, we need a leader stepping up out of that secondary. So real quick, we're going to take one more break. When we come back, we're going to talk about transfer portal, the third biggest area of Clemson this offseason. That feels like we hear about all the time. So we'll be back in just a second.
This episode of Locked On Clemson is brought to you by FanDuel. Guess what, guys? I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. Whew, man, FanDuel has got you covered. FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app, dream up some bets anytime I'm in the mood. I'm telling you guys, it's at your leisure. You can be laying on the couch, twinkling your little toes, and you say, you know what? I want to drop a bet in this bad boy right now. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. Yes, every single day. That's right. There's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel is the official sportsbook betting partner of Major League Baseball.
And here we are, Aaron. Welcome back. So glad you're here joining us. So Dabo on Media Day, he put out, I'm going to paraphrase what he said, but he was asked about the transfer portal. And they asked him, they said, hey, why are you against the transfer portal? And he's like, I'm not against the transfer portal. I'm not anti-portal. I'm pro players at Clemson. I'm pro people that are here that believe in this program, believe in me, and that's who I want to support. Zero transfers, right? Zero transfers incoming, the only non-military school to have zero transfers in the FBS. What's your thoughts? What's your opinions on that?
I mean, it's about 50-50. I completely understand why fans want Clemson to go into the portal. I completely understand why Dabo particularly doesn't, right? The fact of the matter is the word commit has been lost, right? But at Clemson, it still holds value, right? There's a reason players who commit to Clemson don't take official visits anywhere else. Like Dabo said, like Brent Venables said, and still says, why would you go on a paid date with someone else if you're in a committed relationship here? Right. So the fact of the matter is when you commit to Clemson, Clemson commits to you, right? That is a 4, 5, sometimes even a 6-year commitment. Right. And I understand why there are guys who come into Clemson and they feel, I'm not getting playing time, or right, the system changed, coaches have changed, so they enter the portal. I don't fault guys who enter the portal to leave Clemson, or guys who leave any school anywhere. But what Dabo also said, like a few weeks ago, and it got paraphrased, the quote got cut up, and it got drugged through the mud. But the entirety of the quote was, most of the guys in the portal are not good enough to play at Clemson, right? The guys who are in the portal are guys who left Clemson because they weren't playing. The other guys already know where they want to go, and Clemson's not on that list. The third guy, Clemson can't afford him. Clemson can't enter the free agent bidding war. As good, and I have seen the actual numbers, as good as the 110 Society has actually gotten and the amount of money Clemson has been able to generate, we can't get in a bidding war with a top portal guy, right? So, right, Clemson in 2001 went after 5 portal players. They offered 5 portal players. None of them picked Clemson, right? That's just how the cards lie, right? Fact of the matter is there's plenty more high school guys that you can offer and you can bring in, right? 2022, we had no scholarships. That led, like Will Taylor, yes, he wanted to focus mostly on baseball, but he didn't have a scholarship for football, right? They kind of had to pull his scholarship away. There was a Clemson player that same year, senior, could have been a super senior, decided he wanted to come back. First time ever in Clemson history, Coach Swinney had to go, I can't have you, dude. I have no room. And he ended up getting drafted and is now playing in the NFL. And then the third guy, a DB. He wasn't forced to enter the portal, but he kind of understood, hey, I'm really not going to play here, and the school does need a scholarship. In terms of this past offseason, I do feel that there were some areas Clemson could have built on. I would also say those areas were quickly fixed by internal coaching decisions, right? I would much rather bring in a new coach who has put in phenomenal players into the NFL. Coach Matt Luke is one of the best offensive line coaches I have ever seen coach college football, right? He is a hot commodity. Everyone wanted him when he left UGA and said, hey, I kind of need to focus on family. He got a lot of phone calls. He only answered one, and that was Clemson. So I am absolutely ecstatic to have him in. And then also Coach Rumpf, right? The defensive end and the edge room is looked a little bit shallow. Again, I'd rather bring in a coach who can do a lot. Coach Hall did amazing, but Rumpf is already changing the game in terms of that position. So I'd rather get a coach than rather just get a few players. But I understand frustrations, but we just have to understand that the big thing is roster management and bringing in guys who understand their role, understand what position they actually play, what position they are on the depth chart. And the fact of the matter is, no one wants to come to Clemson to ride the bench. They can go anywhere else and ride the bench, but they want to play. So they're going to pick a school that offers them that opportunity to play. And for, I would say, of the 25, 27 starting football positions, there's not a single one of them where you can bring in a portal guy. That's not a guy that you have to enter a bidding war for and actually get them.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the culture that Clemson has created has become not really attracted to transfer portals, like you said, just with the talent that's already there, the culture that they have. And it's not anything diss on them. It's just how loyal they are to the people that chose them in the beginning. But I think that culture is so enticing to recruits, so enticing to high school families, to high school parents, to schools, to students, to rising prospects. And because of that, I think that's why you see consistently top classes coming from Clemson. So I agree with you, man. I'm not gonna lie, I wish there was a couple spots maybe we would have increased a little bit better, but that for sure, Matt Luke is he's already made a difference, and we haven't played a game. So I'm so excited about that. But Aaron, man, it was so glad having you. I appreciate you joining with us. It's been a pleasure. Make sure if you were listening, if you're watching, follow him on Twitter, FQ Clemson. He's got some great stuff over there. Man, Aaron, I wish nothing but the best for you, buddy.
Absolutely, man. John, it was a absolute pleasure to be on here. I know you wanted to get me on for right after the baseball season, but it didn't really work out. I'm super excited for Clemson football this year. I'm excited for all sports this year. I think this is going to be a really good year for Clemson. And if you ever want me back, just hit me up. I'll do it in a heartbeat, man.
Yeah, we'd love to have you. So we'll definitely see you later. Appreciate you joining us, man.
Absolutely, man. Go Tigers.
That's going to wrap up this episode of the Locked On Clemson podcast. Hey, thanks so much for joining us today. We appreciate Aaron hopping over from Fifth Quarter Clemson over on Twitter, joining us here on the Locked On Clemson podcast. Hey, if you're not, make sure you're subscribing to this podcast wherever you get your podcast at and over on YouTube. That way, this can be your first listen every single day here on Locked On Clemson, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. We can't wait to see you later on this week as we continue posting daily episodes. We've got some more guests coming on this week to talk through football and some ACC standings. So hope you enjoyed this. We appreciate you joining us. Can't wait to see you on the next episode. Until then, keep that Tiger pride alive and roaring. And as always, go Tigers.